Hello and welcome to UCTrends 2022. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today, and this is our annual series where we get to speak to some of the senior executives from the leading vendors in the UC and collaboration industry. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Jaya Kumar, who's the EVP and Global Chief Marketing Officer at RingCentral. Welcome, Jaya.
Wonderful to be here, Rob. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me. And I suppose to kick things off today, Jaya, could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and RingCentral, please?
Yeah, I mean, I've sold everything you love to eat. And since you're from the UK, I have to mention Walkers. I worked in Pepsi, Cadbury's, chocolates, cookies, and crackers, and then worked in financial services and worked so half my life outside of the US, half the life in the US, and joined RingCentral about a year ago. RingCentral, as you started off this conversation, is a premier UCaaS company with solutions across both UCaaS and CCaaS, and we are thrilled to be a part of this conversation.
That's great, thank you. So I suppose the first place to start is maybe a little bit of reflection in terms of kind of where we've been. And so I wanted to ask you, what workplace trends have had the most significant effect on the industry in the past year, do you think?
Goodness, last 1 year. That was a crazy year for I think all of us. So if I think of, and I think if I pick it up, I'd say there are 4 or 5 things that stand out most in my mind. The first trend we saw is the speed of customer adoption. I mean, I remember there was this hospital chain who called us up and said, God darn it, we got to get up and running. How many days are you going to take to do this? We said we can be up in 48 hours, 72 hours. Every doctor, every patient, everything was connected and it was working. So the speed at which customers adopted and the privilege we had in serving in that adoption was phenomenal. So that was something we saw in the last 1 year. The second thing we saw is I think people have realized that I can be in Carolina, I can be in London, I can be in China, and the productivity of working together is not compromised. I mean, who the heck knew that a sales guy can actually make a sales call with a customer online and still be as productive and not having to fly, multiple hours to reach the place? And we have seen this again and again across industries. So to me, who knows about these trends being long-term, but at least what we are seeing is there's a fundamental shift of working from anywhere that has happened. So that would be number 2. Number 3 is in conjunction with that trend, where you can work from anywhere, the emergence of the haves and the have-nots, who's in the room and who's not in the room. So participant equity and how to use and build technologies that make participant equity happen became far more important. So a little feature in RingCentral's MVP product, which is a message video phone. Hey, you had the cooler chat. What's the cooler chat expression on video? How do you make that happen? How do you make sure people's faces and expressions can be seen when you're sitting together in a meeting room and you're the only person on video? So these things became far more important as we saw as the pandemic maturity occurred over the last 18 months. So that would be number 3. Number 4, which I think is a phenomenally positive thing we saw the voice of the customer, which is classically the contact center kind of thing, and the way we do work inside the company integrated. So which actually led to a lot of demand for customers saying, hey, listen, I like our contact center. I like that to be ported as quickly as possible to the right person who can provide the solution. And can you give me an integrated UCaaS and CCaaS solution? So that was a pretty massive thing we saw in the last year. And by the way, 60% of our $1 million deals was that. I mean, that I would not have predicted that 18 months ago. In fact, the largest deal we got was over 10 million TCV just on last 18 months. And I'd say the last one is what I feel is the emergence, let's call it this, dumb voice to smart voice. And what I say dumb voice is the only thing you can do is leave a voicemail or pick up the phone and speak to somebody. But taking cloud telephony and adding all the features that a smartphone created 12, 15 years ago and incorporating that in cloud PBX has been another massive trend that we're starting to see. Like imagine that hotel phone that sits next to your bed. The only thing you can do is pick up the receptionist or pick up a voicemail. Imagine if that's on cloud. The telephony features that you can bring into that and replace the entire PBX, more cost effective, far more features and functionality and great experience is the last one. So those are the five, Rob. I mean, and they're not in any particular order, but I felt that's what on reflection, remains in my mind for the last 18 months.
That's great. And it's some really good points. I completely agree. Now, congratulations on winning Best UC Platform and Best UC Provider or UCAS Provider at UC Awards 2021. So I was, keen to hear what your standout moments were in the past 12 months and really kind of how you managed to win the double at UC Awards this year.
Right. No, thank you. Thank you. In fact, we had, I think 2021, our incredible momentum in growth. And as a larger company today, our growth is the same when we were 1/10 our size. I mean, to think of you're able to maintain the size and growth at the same time has been incredibly rewarding. So what are the stand-up moments for 2021 for us internally was at the core, the yearning for human beings to connect. Whether it's on video, whether it's on phone, whether it is on messaging, whether it is in person. How can technology enable, and how can, in our case, RingCentral MVP, message, video, and phone, that platform solution enable human beings to connect? And the technology we have to do that. I mean, there could be no better privilege for us to serve across the world on that core human need. Now, when you think of standout moments, we kind of put together what's our 3-word strategy. If I have 3 words to say that articulates who we are and what we are about, there are 3 words I would say. It's trust, it's innovation, and it is partnership. And we call it TIP. And so let me unpack the TIP a little bit to give you the stand-up moments. By far is trust. And there are 5 drivers of trust that we have started to observe, and we hold this near and dear to our hearts in how we do stuff, how we work. And the first one I would say is reliability. Dial tone is the voice of God, if you can say it. You pick up the phone, it has to work. And we delivered 99.999. I never knew there was a third decimal on this topic, but 5.9 reliability consistently through the year. So that's by far is number one. Second, security. Am I secure in this environment? Am I going to get bombed? So the idea that we have created a secure environment was number 2. Third on trust was privacy. Is my data being used the way you're telling me? Are you going to do anything with that data? Is it protected? Is it within my national borders? So things around privacy became super critical in how we've discovered the stuff around trust. Fourth is compliance. There are certain rules. I mean, there is, as countries became global, as businesses became global, in a way, countries became more nationalistic. And they said, hey, the rules in UK are different from the rules in France and they're different from the rules in US. Are you compliant to my local rules? So compliance was the fourth thing. And fifth one is simple. Can you make it done simple? Can I use limited amount of my brain and focus my attention on the meeting, not on the technology? So the first bucket, Rob, what we saw was trust and those 5 elements: security, compliance, privacy, simplicity, and reliability. That was the hallmark of what we continue to deliver and focus our attention on. The second I said was innovation. Rob, I mean, you can't believe the amount of energy we put on this topic. I mean, we invest as a company the largest on R&D as a percentage of our revenue. I just think of it, 18 months ago, we didn't have a video product. Today, we have a top-tier video product that is well appreciated. We have a massive growth in that space, over 150 plus features. So the speed at which we have innovated is ridiculously high. So that would be number 1 on innovation. We set up 2 R&D centers. We put it in India in the last 18 months. We have acquired capabilities in AI. We have acquired capabilities in security and privacy. And we have made all these tuck-in acquisitions happen within the last 18 months. So I would say innovation is in our blood. It is the secret sauce of a success. And that was a standout moment. The amount and pace at speed at which we were able to scale these innovations would be number 2. And number 3 is partnerships. I mean, heck, if you believe any company can work by themselves and succeed, that's the wrong notion. And for us, partnership is near and dear. I mean, if you think of the number of global service telco providers, that have signed up with RingCentral. And by the way, they take a rigorous process. Yeah. And these guys are masters in their field. Whether it's the Verizon of the world, whether it is the Deutsche Telekom of the world, whether it's the Vodafones of the world, whether it's the new companies we have signed up in Latin America or our existing partners, we've had a phenomenal run with our partners. In fact, we've had awesome revenue growth and phenomenal partnership seats as a result of what we have built around. So to me, the standout moment is TIP: trust, innovation, and partnership.
I think you summed it up perfectly. Thank you so much for that. And so let's look into the future for a moment. What is the marketplace going to look like in 2022? And what do you predict? Any new technologies or any shifts in buying behavior? What's your view?
Yeah, this is one of the more dangerous questions, right? After 1 year, you look back at the video and say, shucks, how could I have been so wrong? So let me go out on the limb and talk about the things that at least I've observed that might have a big material impact over the next 1 year. I think there is a dramatic shift towards what I'm just going to call UCaaS Lego. Meaning, people are saying, hey, listen, I have services, I have apps, and I have applications, I have use cases. Can you give me composable enterprise? Whether it is the way you do low code, pro code, no code, the way you structure the services and how you bring it to life. Can I have the Lego blocks that allows me to build what I need for my enterprise? I think it's become practical, it's become real, and I believe that trend is going to take off in a much more significant way. So that would be one. The number two one, which is interesting, and I think it has been always there in the classical e-commerce world, which is customization. But the way it is expressed here, customers use a three-phrase word: my business, my way, my pace. And if you actually unpack that, so let's take an example. They'll say, hey, listen, my business, I'm in the healthcare. Talk to me from a healthcare lens. Don't talk to me about the overall industry. Okay, so that's my business. My way is within that business, I'm really focused on clinical technicians. I need you to tell me a solution for that persona. So that's my way. And I need to integrate that persona with A, B, and C. So these apps or these applications. And the third thing they'll say is my pace. I love going to cloud, but I want to do it over the next 5 years. Or the other people, I love to do that tomorrow. How do you get it there? So it is the notion, and you can convert all of that. I would call it multi-speed innovation and transformation. That has become a much more bigger trend. So it's almost like I have to determine what is the pace you want, what are the most critical business persona use cases you need, and what vertical component parts that are unique and differentiated for your business. And if we can architect our solution that way, I believe it's going to make a difference. So that, to me, is number two. And number three is, we have all heard about AI, right? Fundamentally at AI, the story of AI was man versus machine. Let us make the computer as smart as the machine. As the human being. I think the word that is flipping over now is IA, which is intelligence augmentation. Which is, I want the machine to augment my intelligence, not prove that it's smarter than me. What does that mean? It means that every interaction, every node, how do I bring machine level intelligence into what I am doing so that I can get to be a better human expression of myself because I know this augmentation is there. So to me, I think the third trend is you're going to see pervasive IA, pervasive with everything we do. Whether we pick up the phone, drive a car, think of all the technologies today that aids a human being to become much more effective and much more productive. And I think that trend is going to take off exponentially because the cost of AI or the cost of IA has become much, much lower compared to what it has been historically. So if I were to say, those are the three things I would say: composable Lego enterprises. Number two would be my business, my way, my pace, which is multi-speed transformation to cloud. And the third, I would say, is using intelligence and augmenting it at every step of what I do.
Yeah, I love that, especially the IA one, where we're talking about augmenting the human and making us a little bit smarter and faster and more productive and that kind of thing. I think that is the holy grail, isn't it? And if UC and collaboration can take some responsibility for improving the way we work, and I think that's fantastic. So.
And another point that you made, Rob, is the take every transaction and we ask the question, okay, if you bring in, how do we augment that transaction? Literally. So if you take a roadmap of somebody picking the phone and calling a pharmacy, think of all the steps where you could add intelligence. So both for the customer and for the consumer. And that roadmap of adding intelligence, and we call it converting pain points to bliss points using intelligence. So if you can create that experience to be blissful using intelligence, I think that would make a massive difference for us as well.
Indeed, and we're seeing so much more recently, aren't we, around the employee experience as well, kind of augmenting the agent and augmenting the user with more information and what they need. So
in fact, you're raising another important point, which is the more happy the employees are, the happier the customers become. So the correlation between ensuring your employees have zero friction in the work and their ability to serve customers easily, quickly, and in an empowered way is probably more important to deliver the best service for our customers. And I think the correlation and the causality of the two is becoming far more important as we continue to look in the future.
Yeah, sure. And it sounds so simple when you say it, but so many companies do get that wrong, don't they? But hopefully, hopefully we'll get better.
That's true.
Jay, you've shared some really crucial observations, and thank you so much for taking part in UCTrends 2022. Jay, please stay tuned, and stay tuned everyone for a little bit of fun now. We're going to be getting to know Jay a little bit more with some quick fire questions. Jaya, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Humorous, I would say idealistic, and a bit crazy.
What was your first job?
Harvesting guavas from trees.
Oh, wow. Favorite band?
Favorite band? Whatever my wife likes. Trust me, it's the source of marital happiness.
Most watched movie ever?
Gosh, I'd say Godfather.
I'm a Godfather fan. Godfather Part 2 especially. I've probably watched that 100 times.
Yeah, Matrix is now coming up with the 4th version. I don't know how that's going to play out, but yes.
Yeah, indeed. Matrix fan as well. Favorite cuisine?
Oh, by far, Indian and Thai.
Very nice. What is your morning routine?
Meditation for last 50 years, I guess. It's been inbred into me.
That's good. Tell us a surprising fact about yourself.
I'm a qualified palm reader.
Very good. If you could live in another country, where would you live and why?
I've lived in so many countries, but the one I loved was Thailand. It is so much close to nature.
Yeah, lovely place. What's the most inspirational book you've ever read?
The Molecular Basis of Life by Watson and Crick. I was a molecular biologist by profession, so that's the book I loved.
Favorite pastime?
Favorite pastime? I'd say reading. I love reading. But I can say the more pastime for 30 years of marriage is walking with my wife 3 miles every day.
Oh, very good. How do you describe your job to your friends and family?
Connecting humans.
What's worse, ironing or gardening?
Oh goodness, that's not even a choice. Gardening, for sure I love. Ironing, I hate with a passion.
So the house is on fire. Which 2 items are you going to save?
The people I love, my wife and my dog. My son doesn't stay with me in case you're wondering what happened to him.
You can invite anyone to dinner, dead or alive. Who's it going to be?
God, there are 2. One would be Gandhi. I'd love to have had a dinner with him. Or the other one was Einstein, who's my favorite hero in science.
That sounds like a fascinating dinner. Virtual or in-person meetings?
Oh goodness. After all of that, it's hybrid, it's both.
Good answer. If you could go back in time for a day, what date would you go to and why?
I'd say the most profound influence was the day we gained independence, and I would love to be there to experience what that feels like.
If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Oh, life is a marathon, not a sprint. Take the time with your family.
Good advice. Biggest business mistake?
That'll take us for the next 3 days to go through. I make mistakes every day, and therefore every moment is a learning day. So I don't know if there's one which is the biggest, but it's continuous.
Which new technology will transform the industry?
Return to simplicity, to human simplicity.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today, Jaya. It's been really, really good talking to you. Thank you.
Absolutely, Rob. Love the conversation and hope you have a wonderful day.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's interview, you can catch up on the complete UCTrends series at uctoday.com/trends. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.